Yes, I may now call the meeting to all the members. We've got a quorum already. And I think we can now invite the administration in. The minutes of the last meeting, or rather, an information paper has been issued since the last meeting. CB 2786-1213-01. Referral from the meeting between LegCo members and Wan Chai District Councillors on the 24th of January this year on the issue of liquor licenses and the regulation of feeding wild pigeons in the urban area. Right. Moving on, item 2 on the agenda, items for discussion at the next meeting. Mr. Kenneth Chan, on the 15th of March 2013, requested the panel to discuss the administration's hawker policy. Mr. Chan has written to the panel, and I believe we should discuss this issue in June. Members, what do you think? According to some newspaper reports, on Fa Yuen Street and on the Ladies' Market, there are people who put up street performances, but in fact, they are carrying out hawking activities. It seems that we don't have too many things to discuss in June, right? Can we discuss this matter in June?
The
administration has proposed that we should discuss the sustainable fisheries and also review of the moratorium on issuing new fish culture licenses and rodent control in June. So the administration has proposed 3 items for us for the June meeting. And the clerk has just reminded me that we will have 4 items for the May meeting. Liquor licensing guidelines for upstairs bars, supply of live cattle in Hong Kong, reduction of salt or sugar content in food, and mosquito control. So, members, what do you think? The government's hawker policy and also people putting up street performances, but in fact are carrying out hawking activities. Mr. Wong Kwok Heng, now I am just worried that we won't have sufficient time to discuss the matter in June. In fact, we have had some discussions on hawker policies, and I think we need a special meeting to discuss the matter. I think we need at least 2 hours. So, Mr. Wong, you want a special meeting? Any objection to that idea? I would like to remind members that with regard to liquor licensing, as members may recall, at the last meeting, some members suggested that there should be a dedicated meeting to discuss liquor licensing, and at that meeting we would be meeting deputations, and so we will be having 2 special meetings, one for liquor licenses, one for hawker policies. Chairman, I think it is really necessary to have a dedicated meeting to discuss liquor licenses. I used to be an LLB member. The issues involved are extremely complicated, and I think having a public hearing will help us understand the policies more. All right. I do agree with Mr. Wong Kwok Heng that the issue of liquor licensing is extremely complex. And so we do need a special meeting to deal with liquor licensing. So can I tell the clerk to make necessary arrangements for 2 special meetings? One to meet deputations on liquor licensing, the other on hawker policies, and also people putting up street performances when they're in fact trying to carry out hawking activities. Now the clerk has reminded me that instead of having a dedicated meeting to meet deputations on liquor licensing, we can on the 14th of May lengthen the meeting by 2 hours. In fact, the meeting on the 14th of May will start at 2:30 and should end at 4:30. And so can we lengthen the meeting for 2 hours? And in the second half of the meeting, we can meet deputations on liquor licensing. And meanwhile, we will have sufficient time to discuss supply of live cattle in Hong Kong, reduction of salt or sugar content in food, or mosquito control. So thank you very much. So we'll adopt your suggestion. The meeting on the 14th of May will be lengthened by 2 hours. So please reserve the meeting venue for us for 4 hours so that we will have time to meet the deputations and have time for the remaining 3 items. But we may not need 4 hours in total because we may not need to spend too much time on mosquito control or supply of live cattle. All right? I think we can now move on to agenda item number 3, avian influenza prevention measures, including the ban on keeping backyard poultry. I think we can also invite the deputations in. We've got a background brief prepared by the Secretariat. It's CB 2944-1213-04. And we have a total of 6 deputations with us today. The list of organizations and individuals has been tabled for members. So let's invite them in. So, on behalf of the panel, I would like to welcome Dr. Ko and his team. And I would also like to welcome the deputations. I want to remind you that Channel 0 is the floor channel, Channel 1 Cantonese, Channel 2 English. And I also need to remind the deputations that what you say at this meeting will not be covered by the Electoral Powers and Privileges Ordinance. So I hope you understand. That means that you have to be responsible for what you say. No exemptions or no coverage under the Electoral Powers and Privileges Ordinance. And I will be inviting the deputations to speak one by one. I hope you understand that as we don't have sufficient time for the meeting, each deputation will only be given 3 minutes. So, first of all, we have Mr. Wong Yun Tai, Vice Chairman of the Federation of Hong Kong Agricultural Associations. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, members. I want to make the following suggestions on behalf of the Federation. Now, concerning the relocation of pigeon farms and chicken farms, now I think this is important. Now, because sometimes we may have luxury small houses developed near chicken farms, and people are complaining about nuisances caused by chicken farms, but odor, for example. But then the AFCD, after investigation, is of the view that such complaints cannot be established. No. In fact, we have been there for years, but then village houses or small houses have just been constructed in the vicinity. I hope that members can give us assistance. Please help us identify suitable sites, and please help us apply to the government for relocation of our chicken farms. Now, according to the ordinance, chicken farms can be relocated, but then there are requirements laid down, and as a result, we are never able to relocate our chicken farms. Now, I think you can ask the department about the content of those requirements. I don't want to state those requirements here today. And I think if our chicken farms can be relocated, we'll end up having a win-win-win situation. First of all, we can introduce or we can build new facilities. Now, because if we have enclosed chicken sheds, that would help to achieve a segregation effect. And then secondly, there will be fewer complaints from villagers and residents living nearby. And third, the department can concentrate its efforts on helping chicken farmers step up their preventive measures. I want to say that both chicken farms and pigeon farms are adversely affected by the relevant bylaw. So I hope that electoral members will not be deceived by the Bureau and the department. I hope that you can really help us relocate. Now, say if I have money and I buy a site in the Islands District and there aren't any people living nearby, and do you think I can relocate my chicken farm to that site? The answer is no. Chairman, you can ask the department why that's the case. And then I would like to say something about migratory birds. Now, in the bird conservation areas, there are lots of migratory birds gathering, and the number is ever on the increase. And there are people viewing the birds. But then concerning chicken farms, people can't come in and view the chickens, and we have to do disinfection. We have to comply with the requirements of the department. Now, chickens are also birds. It seems that the government is adopting double standards. And also, when a lot of migratory birds gather, they eat the fish reared in the fish ponds of our farming friends.
Next one is Mr. Tang Wai-leun of the New Territories Chicken Breeders Association. I speak on behalf of chicken farmers. We are in a plight and similar situation to what Mr. Wong just said. The government has some bylaws that actually make things difficult for us, and we cannot enhance our biosecurity. In the past, chicken breeders had not thought about breeding chicken in enclosures. Now many farms are actually enclosures, but to enhance biosecurity, the government wants to actually does not allow us to move to other locations. Even some farmers were asked to leave and their sites be confiscated by the government. So there's no way we can actually enhance the farming environment. And also, the supply of live chickens from China has dealt a blow to our business, even though the supply has been reduced to 3,500 from 7,000 a day. But still, local chickens actually are not doing a good trade. And in local farm, there's been a large stockpile of chicken. So we can ask AFCD about the latest figures. The situation is really serious. Yesterday, nobody wanted our local chicken, locally bred chickens, even though they're sold at a very low price. Because, with the situation in Hong Kong actually is like any other advanced country in that we don't have live poultry or backyard poultry. And AFCD has actually impose a lot of restriction on us. There's biosecurity system monitoring each chicken. So the risk of avian flu here is very low. So therefore, we hope that you can try to actually enhance the capacity of local farms so that we can reduce the supply from China. In China, it's difficult for them to ban backyard poultry, which means that could bring a higher risk to Hong Kong since we're importing so many of their chickens. So if we stop the supply of chicken from China and Hong Kong has its own chicken farms, then it will mean a lot of savings of resources. And testing could be done locally in chicken farms, and there's no need to test other animals. Now the society is so anxious about the safety of chickens and other animals. And also there are not enough sales channels for our chickens. We have had long discussions with the government, so I hope that can be resolved. Thank you, Mr. Tang. Next one is Mr. Leung Wai Hei. Good afternoon. I'd like to talk about the mysterious or delicate balance in nature. Even though animals face viruses, but there should be a chance for every animal to grow healthily. Under the sun, birds actually they will actually try to maintain their bodily health and hygiene with their own methods. If we allow for the provision of a natural environment and appropriate food and allow for a normal rate of growth for animals, including chickens, then birds and animals can actually develop the immune system against all kinds of diseases. We need to enhance the health of human bodies as well. If we enjoy more sun rays, if we have healthy foods, have stable rests, and if we are in a good mood ourselves, then our bodily health will also improve. And the hormones injected into human bodies actually could have various effects. So I propose the resumption of backyard poultry in Hong Kong. We need to restore fish ponds and the local farming of ducks and chickens. We need to restore walled villages so that children and other people of the public can see all these natural scenes, and that can improve the mood of people and also increase their natural ability against diseases or immunity against diseases as well. On the killing of chickens or slaughtering of chickens, I propose that chickens should be slaughtered in Hong Kong because, China has bred so many chickens for us already. If we are to consume chicken, we should also bear the responsibility of slaughtering. This way, in this way, we actually will be acting in a more morally sound manner. We need to shoulder the responsibility. I hope that Hong Kong people would not just pay attention to one side of the problem. It's like in an area, if a place is filled with waste or food waste, then there will be a lot of insects our responsibility is not just to create a closed environment. Our task is to actually create a clean and healthy environment, even though we'll have to pay a heavy price for creating such an environment. But I think we need to move in that direction so that people love animals and can keep them in good condition. Thank you. Next one is Save Pets and Birds Coalition's representative, Mr. Shek Kwok-kung. Mr. Shek. Thank you, Chairman. I'm from the spokesperson for the coalition. A few years ago, Dr. Sid and other colleagues from AFCD actually gave us a lot of help. And they alerted us to the danger, the risk of backyard poultry, and to help us reduce the possibility of the spread of infectious diseases. As for the government's prevention measures on avian flu, of course, the government has done a lot already. And every day, you conduct sample checks on the imported chickens. And I do appreciate the work of the government. And today, on behalf of the coalition, mainly, I want to make 2 points. One is that I want to show you 2 characters. One is sheep and the other is birds. In urban areas, you can see a lot of wild pigeons and even swallows who in March and April, particularly in Yunnan, you can see a large number of swallows who have deposited a lot of sheets everywhere in various areas, and we receive a lot of complaints from people. I don't know whether the government has pay attention to the nuisance caused by sheets from birds, which are everywhere. And people don't know whether the sheets actually are infected with any virus. So I think the government needs to really understand and make efforts into, for example, carry out random checks to test the sheets, the bird sheets. You know, even in Tsim Sha Tsui, near the 5 flagpoles, near the ferry terminal, there are a lot of bird sheets too. And it's a popular area where people see a lot of birds. If people step on the sheets and bring them home, then the virus could be spread to their homes as well. People don't know what they are bringing back to their homes. So I wonder where the government has really looked at the situation and find out more about the potential risk, and whether we can teach the public not to bring bird sheets into their home, you know, to pose dangers or risk to their children who are, for example, who are climbing on the floor and crawling on the floor and so forth. And another thing is I wonder where the government carries out periodic random checks of bird sheets and issues notices to the public warning them about potential black spots where a lot of sheets have been found. I don't know whether you provide such information to the public and educate people about, you know, how to clean the shoes and be aware of, you know, keeping themselves away from the sheets. I found that, you know, you see them in many places. Sometimes I bring 2 pairs of shoes with myself, you know, and Chairman, please excuse me, but for saying this, but I want to say that sometimes I bring 2. I've brought an extra pair of shoes here, actually, indeed. Not as a. You're not showing us bird sheets, are you? Well, these are shoes, you know, with sheets at the bottom. Well, I understand. I'm sure the Secretary will respond to your concern about bird sheets. Okay. The next one is Mr. Leung Kam Hong. If members, if you have seen our paper today, then you know that Mr. Leung actually is the person who sells raised pigeons. Thank you. Yes, I'm the only seller of pigeons in Hong Kong. I raise pigeons and sell them. In many races, well, there used to be in a lot of pigeon races. Now, actually, I have been helping with, providing pigeons at major ceremonies, like on National Day celebrations. In 1999, since 1999, I haven't organized any pigeon race at my home. I keep them at home, just put them in cages, and I don't let them fly outside of my flat. So now, the only pigeon shop in Hong Kong is the one run by me. So I'm keeping my pigeons in an enclosure environment. It's like, birds being kept in cages. So I don't see there's any difference between keeping birds and pigeons. I don't see any chance of my pigeons being exposed to the avian flu virus. I hope that I can be given the space for survival. I don't need to support my family. So I hope that members can help me maintain my business so that I can continue to sell pigeons. Mr. Lau, you still have some time left. Can you explain clearly to our members? I know your shop is in Kwun Tong, and there's a redevelopment project there, and you once tried to find ways to continue your business, right? Can you explain what you did? Yes, I want to be in Bird Street, and he said I can't sell pigeons in Bird Street openly. But all along I've been having a bird's license when I was selling pigeons. And that was back in 30 years ago. Nobody asked me to get a pigeon's license, and now they asked me to move away from Kwun Tong and to get a new license. But I don't know what kind of license I need to continue my business, and there's no president in Hong Kong. I don't know what I should do. So the AFCD, it gives you an exhibition license, right? Yes. I want to know whether, but I've got some pigeons with me in my place. I also sell feeds for pigeons, and I need to show people samples. I can't just show pictures of feeds or pigeons to people. You still have 30 seconds left. I'd like to ask you. Say if AFCD allows you to sell your pigeons in the bird's garden in Bird Street, would you be willing to pay to vaccinate your pigeons? Yes, I would be willing to pay to have my pigeons vaccinated. Every year I vaccinate them. I do it every year to prevent the pigeons from being infected. Okay, your time's up. Members will see what they can do for you later on. And the last one is, may I ask, Dr. Fiona Woodhouse, Deputy Director of the Society for Protection of Cruelty to Animals, to speak.
PCA recognises that Hong Kong has a fairly robust risk management programme aimed at preventing highly pathogenic avian influenza-related human and veterinary health events. Vaccinations programs help to protect poultry, and backyard poultry are banned, and a range of biosecurity measures are often in place where birds are traded or exhibited, depending on risk assessment. Risk assessment is ongoing and includes surveillance programs targeting poultry, pet trade birds and wild birds. However, such measures as increased biosecurity vaccination programs and surveillance can only reduce the risk of a veterinary public health event, and with the current Hong Kong systems, a key risk factor continues to be increased and often unnecessary close contact between humans and birds. Within the poultry industry, wet markets and stalls selling live poultry directly to the public are particularly problematic in terms of potential disease events. Also, the continued importation of poultry from outside Hong Kong adds additional risks that are inherent with distant sources and longer supply chains. Subsequently, the risk of an AI-related public health event and its probable negative impact on the local poultry industry and risks to other birds in Hong Kong could further be reduced by stopping the sale of live poultry directly to the public and stopping the live importation of poultry from outside Hong Kong. With regards to poultry, not only does the current system have inherent increased risk of zoonotic disease, but it is also a concern in terms of animal welfare. Within the poultry trade, birds are also being subjected to unnecessary stresses and negative events prior to being slaughtered for food. Best practices for food animals in terms of animal welfare include minimising the distances travelled and the time in relation to transport, and also should minimise the handling and holding related welfare issues prior to slaughter. This does not happen with the current system. A further area for concern is the trade in pet birds, which also remains problematic on many fronts, including regulation, bird welfare and conservation. Shops selling pet birds can be grouped together, such as in Newn Post Street Bird Garden, presenting an increased risk of disease transmission, as large numbers of birds from multiple sources are held in close proximity, often for long periods. This environment alone presents an increased challenge to biosecurity and an increased risk of disease events. But this increased risk is still furthered by visitor behaviour as they move between different shops. As such, the current strategy for the pet bird trade should be reviewed and regulation, oversight and biosecurity measures enhanced. One area that is often overlooked on the discussion of bird-related veterinary public health matters is the ongoing practice of religious release. Birds are often used during such practices. A Hong Kong youth study in 2004-2005 carried out by surveying groups involved in the practice and also traders supplying the birds estimated that somewhere between 400,000 and 1 million birds could be released each year in Hong Kong. This can be compared to the 2005 government trade figures of approximately 120,000 birds. It seems that a significant number of birds used for religious release originate from questionable sources. It is suggested that a significant number are smuggled in. Obviously, such birds are not necessarily subject to any AI prevention or surveillance measures or other disease screening processes. On release, these birds mix with indigenous Hong Kong bird populations and could be a route for introduction of disease into the native population. There are also equally serious welfare concerns and conservation concerns. This practice should be halted. Many of these issues we've raised can be addressed through a multi-pronged approach with improved veterinary public health measures and risk management, dialogue with stakeholders such as groups involved in religious release, improved regulation and oversight, and most importantly, public information campaigns and education campaigns aimed at changing behaviours. Finally, we reiterate that if and when a disease event does occur as part of the disease control process, birds need to be killed, it is important that international best practices are followed and that this is done in as a humanely manner as possible, taking into account the welfare of both birds and humans. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Woodhouse.
Thank you, Secretary. Now, you've heard the 6 deputations. I want to remind you that this item also covers the content of a letter written to me by Mr. Wong Kwok Heng, and in fact that letter has been copied to your bureau. That letter was written on the 5th of April by Mr. Wong. So can you now provide some responses to the comments made by the 6 deputations as well as the comments made by Mr. Wong in his letter dated the 5th of April? Yes. Yes, Secretary. Yes. Chairman, members. I'll try to organize my responses. I understand that today we're here to discuss with members the avian flu prevention measures. But I understand that the chairman has, for convenience sake, included some other issues under this item. So I'll spend the next few minutes briefing members on the avian flu prevention measures, and then I can give further replies when members ask questions. Now, concerning H7N9, I want to say that H5N1 has been affecting humans. But of course, we've recently seen when we've recently seen this H7N9. As at the 15th of April, yesterday, the we were given 63 reports concerning H7N9, and there were 14 deaths, and we were given notification by the National Health and Family Planning Commission. And I understand that we may have new cases. We have Shanghai, Beijing, Henan, Jiangsu, which have these cases. And in some cities and provinces, H7N9 has been detected in environmental swabs, but we haven't seen death of large quantities of birds. So the virus is spreading, but the source of infection has yet to be identified, and we haven't seen human-to-human transmission yet. So we've seen sporadic cases, but of course the total number is not small. Now, in fact, influenza A is a statutorily notifiable infectious disease in Hong Kong, and we haven't got any confirmed cases of human infection in Hong Kong so far. In fact, we have had 11 cases of suspected cases of influenza A since the first case of H7N9 in the mainland. And I understand that today we are dealing with 4 cases. So 11 cases have satisfied the definition of suspected cases, and then 31 do not satisfy the definition of suspected cases, but then we will carry out monitoring and surveillance, and we'll also carry out rapid tests. And 4 of these cases are being handled today. And we haven't had any case of a positive result so far after testing. In 1997, we had the first outbreak of avian flu in Hong Kong, and so a series of preventive and control measures at the farm, wholesale, retail, and import levels were implemented, and they have been implemented since then. And we have drills. For example, we had one in March, and in fact, since I assumed office, I have taken part in 3 or 4 drills. Towards the end of last year, there was a drill on how the chickens needed to on how the chickens were to be culled, and it was said that it had to be done in a humane, safe, and hygienic manner. Now, I want to say that concerning our contingency plan for the flu pandemic, we have the alert level and the serious level, and also the emergency level. We have 3 levels. Now, in fact, our avian flu risk has been maintained at a reasonably low level so far, but then we have seen an outbreak of H7N9 cases in the mainland recently, and so we have to be vigilant and alert. Now, first of all, I want to say that the FEHD and other relevant departments have stepped up daily cleansing operations, and we are also inspecting the biosecurity measures at live poultry outlets. These markets, public markets, and also streets are thoroughly cleansed. And when, especially on streets where the dead bodies of wild birds are found. And we've also reminded our staff to be vigilant. In fact, this morning I had a meeting with representatives of the live poultry trade. And at the meeting, I reminded operators and workers to step up attention and vigilance, because concerning avian flu cases in the eastern part of the mainland and the middle part of the mainland, most of the victims have had contacts with live poultry. They're either keeping live poultry or selling or slaughtering live poultry. And so in this H7N9 outbreak, those working in the live poultry trade are in the high-risk category. And we understand that there are environmental hygiene problems arising from the feeding of wild birds by members of the public. And that is why we've always advise the public against feeding wild birds. Now, wild birds gather at a particular location because there are people feeding them. And so at these locations, we step up prosecution, we step up cleansing. From January last year to March this year, we have had 74 prosecutions with regard to feeding of wild pigeons, and on concerning dead bodies of wild birds, and we have been handling them very carefully. And then at markets, retail outlets, we've taken samples and we've carried out tests for H5 and H7. And in fact, the quarantine authorities in the mainland, as well as the entry and exit authorities have in the mainland have also stepped up their vigilance. In fact, all live poultry from the mainland have to undergo H7 tests, and a health certificate is required for the batch of chickens. And in fact, we understand that 570,000 chickens have been tested for H5, H7, and also avian flu antigens, and the results have been negative. And also we have, together with experts, had a meeting with mainland experts in Zhuhai. We understand that the mainland has stepped up surveillance and monitoring of live poultry sent to Hong Kong. So inspection of farms have been stepped up. And then in the mainland, they do agree that if there is H7, or if there is an H7N9 case in Guangdong, then there will be this 13 km radius rule. And on the 11th of April, from then onwards, at the Mankamto control point, we have been taking samples of live chickens for rapid H7 tests. And these tests have been operating very well. And we haven't found the H7 virus in live poultry from the mainland. And then with regard to the paper, to the panel, we detail a series of preventive measures against AI, which have proved to be effective. We've stepped up surveillance and monitoring. We've also stepped up regulation of local farms, including enforcement of biosecurity measures and so on and so forth. And with regard to the ban on the keeping of backyard poultry, I think this measure has been effective, although I do understand that some deputations do not support this measure. I want to say that there are many experts around the world who think that backyard poultry can increase avian flu risk and will provide a greater chance of live poultry coming into contact with wild birds. We do not think there is justification to relax any of the existing preventive measures against AI. And then the CHP has been liaising very closely with WHO and its mainland counterparts. And then concerning pot control measures, I will not go into details because today we're talking about live poultry. But of course, if members ask questions about pot control measures, I will also be giving members information. So all in all, we will continue to be vigilant. We will maintain close liaison with overseas health authorities and mainland health authorities, and we will also step up testing and prevention locally against H7. Departments concerned and bureaus will work very hard to try to prevent an avian flu outbreak in Hong Kong. But if we discover H5 or H7 cases in Hong Kong, then we will adopt the OIE's recommendation to carry out culling activities of an appropriate scale. And then the buying and selling of live poultry will be banned immediately, and there will be thorough cleansing to prevent a major outbreak of avian flu in Hong Kong. But of course, if we are to implement these measures, we have to have the support of the public and also the live poultry trade. So I would like to appeal to members of the public to pay attention to environmental hygiene and their personal hygiene. If they feel unwell, they should consult their doctors. And we will also step up public education through various channels. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, this item is supposed to last till 6:15. That's about an hour. To allow for a second round of Q&A, I'll give each member 6 minutes first. Okay? The order now is Wong Kok-heng, Claudia Mo, Wong Pik Wen, Vice Chairman, and Chen Chi-chun. Mr. Wong Kok-heng first, 6 minutes. Thank you, Chairman. Just then I heard from the Secretary the situation on the latest measures. I've got 2 questions. Firstly, in the Special Finance Committee meeting last week, I asked about in relation to the prevention, whether the government can hold a territory-wide cleaning campaign. And Secretary, you answered positively to my suggestion then. So Secretary, the territory-wide cleaning campaign, when will it be launched? You know, we're going to have the May 1st Golden Week holidays. That's when there'll be a lot more people flow. Recently, there have been media reports on hygiene black spots, particularly in alleys. Some very dirty environment, and these are actually hotbeds for virus. I think if we launch the whatever you call it, doesn't really matter. You can call it whatever you like, but I think it's best to launch the campaign as soon as possible to mobilize everyone in Hong Kong from all sectors to take preventive measures. Secretary, can you tell me what the preparations are now for the campaign? And secondly, in the mainland, every day there are actually reports of HN9 cases, particularly in eastern China, central China. It seems that the situation is quite worrying. Virus could spread to Hong Kong. So I'd like to ask the Secretary, under what circumstance would you raise the alert level to emergency or serious, which warrants a ban on the sale of live poultry or even slaughtering? I'd like to ask the Secretary as well. Firstly, for wild birds, if they are tested to have virus or to be infected, or if imported live poultry are found to be infected with the virus, or if local people are found to have been infested with the virus, or in the fourth scenario, if there are foreign visitors here, including tourists who are found to have been infected, confirmed to have been infected, then would either of these scenarios, once it's proven, be a factor for raising the level to emergency or serious? There could be a fifth scenario that warrants raise in the alert level. Everyone is worried now. So we do need the Bureau to give us a definite response. Thank you. Mr. Wong, on territory-wide hygiene, the government actually attaches much importance to public hygiene, and particularly in any cases of an epidemic, or if we are to avoid an epidemic, public hygiene is of terrible importance. So I kept repeating that, for many times already, about the importance of maintaining hygiene. The government now is liaising with various district councils to launch some large-scale cleaning campaign, targeting particularly at hygiene black spots. I believe that in the next couple of days we'll have an announcement. As for the situation in the mainland, all along we're very concerned about the number of cases there up till now. Based on the National Family Council's report, we have received information of scattered cases. As I said earlier, H7N9, particularly in central and eastern China, actually has been spread more widely there among poultries, and therefore there have been this number of patients infected at different times through contacts, mainly through contacts with poultry. So this is a kind of sporadic spread of the virus. So far, we haven't seen any evidence of human-to-human transmission, but no expert can rule out any possibility in the future. Say if the gene of the virus changes, then we don't know what will be the consequence. The government has made it clear that whether for poultry or among humans, if the H7N9 virus is found, we would definitely, once it's found, we would raise the alert level to serious. If we found H7N9 or H7.5, we would actually take appropriate measure. We will also consider suspending the supply of live poultry into Hong Kong. Thank you for your response to my first question. I hope that the government can, in the next couple of days, announce your details, your plan for the territory-wide cleaning campaign. Huolian Mo, followed by Olympic Wen. Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to ask about the Hong Kong cleaning campaign, whatever you want to call it. You said that you would announce details as soon as possible, but let's not be so mysterious. Can you just give us some basic information, like would it be held in densely populated areas, in, for example, markets in Kowloon? Would it be held in Kowloon first, or would it be held in remote parts in the new territories first, at the peak? You must have some basic ideas in mind and basic timetable. Just then, May 1st, the Golden Week is approaching. That's when a lot of the travelers will be coming from Eastern China. Hong Kong has already got a lot of tour groups who plan to visit Shanghai or other places in Zhejiang province who have cancelled their tours. Hong Kong people don't want to visit those places now, but still a lot are coming from there to Hong Kong. I know there's not been any evidence of human-to-human transmission, but 3 months ago, even the doctors was not expecting H7N9. So, shouldn't we, would you tell us, when would you consider in terms of contact between poultry and humans? Even Mr. Wong Kwok Hing says that everyone is afraid of the worst. So when would you raise the alert level to serious? So that whether it's human beings or, live poultry, and, that you would take action against, avoiding any contact between them. And then I have a question for Mr. Leung Kam Hong. I'm a bit surprised why Mr. Leung's case will be put before us, but it is somewhat related to our topic today. Mr. Leung, he is someone who is responsible for all the immunization, vaccination for pigeons. So can he be allowed to operate in Bird's Garden in Bangkok? What's your policy on that? Thank you. Secretary, thank you, Ms. Mo. Question 2, as I said just then, very clearly, whether, in case poultry in Hong Kong have been found to have H7 or H5, then the level will be raised to serious. And in accordance with OIE principles and recommendation, we would consider ban the supply of live chickens in Hong Kong or ban the sale of them in markets. But how about human beings? How about any policies on travelers coming from the affected areas? Well, if anyone in Hong Kong who is in fact found to have been infected with H7N9, we would raise the alert level. So he means that, well, Hong Kong people means the travelers from China into Hong Kong, right? Is that what you meant? Yes. Okay. I'll ask the PS to supplement. Yes. As for the cleaning campaign, now we are liaising with various district councils, and we are still working out on the details. But I can tell you that our concept now is to have a cleanup campaign across all 18 districts in Hong Kong, concentrating on hygiene black spots. But for details, it really need to, we need to wait. When would you confirm the details? Chairman, as mentioned by the Secretary, well, it will be determined in a number of days because of the threat of the virus. We should not have further delay. Do you mean in a week's time? Will definitely be within a week, maybe in 2-3 days, we would have some concrete details. Once we know about the timetable, we would let the public know. I can't tell you all the details now. How about Mr. Leung's case? Who can answer? I think we can't comment on an individual case at the panel. Well, let me remind the Secretary that this item, this case was related because, I and Mr. Wong Ko-heng had been following up on his case, and the H759 virus emerged, and therefore we added his case to the item on this agenda. But I don't know whether officials can give him a reply today. Well, maybe I'll ask Dr. Sit from AFCD to talk about the overall policy, but let me insist I can't comment on individual cases here. Okay, Dr. Sit. Okay, you have 1 minute 30 seconds for Mr. Leung. If he's willing to pay for the vaccination costs for his pigeons, then can he continue to run his business? Thank you, Chairman. For raised pigeons, if they are vaccinated, once they're vaccinated, they will be given an exhibition license, which is already given to Mr. Leung. As for the sale of pigeons, under the law, pigeons are considered a kind of poultry. So if you're selling poultry, then you can't regard them as pets kept for raising. And birds' gardens are there for the sale of birds for appreciation, not poultry. I don't want to put poultry and birds together in the birds' garden. There could be cross infection. Okay. Next one is Miss Wong, pick one. Miss Wong? In the Secretariat's paper, it says that should the public discover any dead or sick birds, they can notice AFCD. And AFCD then would collect the samples for testing. That's a good thing, of course. But I'd like to know just then, there are people, there's someone who talked about the problem of bird sheets. Earlier, I heard that some people who contracted the virus had walked past, who contracted the avian flu virus had walked past the bird street. So I want to know whether the bird sheets are safe. Do they carry virus? If you walk through past, you can find that, in the morning, there are lots of people going through parks or exercising, children and old people, women, all sorts of people. I want to know, would you consider, because of this, special time, how are you going to handle this issue? Would you provide a hotline for the public? Now you have a hotline for people buying baby milk powder. If someone sees a dead bird or discover sheets, a lot of bird sheets on the streets, who can they call? Would you have a hotline that they call?
And if people call, then the AFCD and the FEHD will come to carry out tests and to do thorough cleansing. So the public do not know whether the droppings will cause a spread of the diseases. And then may I refer to para A of the paper. That's para 3A. Comprehensive surveillance and monitoring at all levels of the live poultry supply chain, including farms, wholesale poultry markets, retail outlets, blah, blah, blah. But then you can't control the migratory birds coming to Hong Kong. We have the wetland park, and many people go there to view the birds. And so I want to know whether we should at this stage warn Hong Kong people against carrying out bird viewing activities. And do you have a surveillance program for the Hong Kong Wetland Park? Have you discovered dead bodies of birds in the wetland park? So should people continue to view birds at the wetland park? Secretary, yes, thank you. I thank Ms. Wong for her questions. I'll give some replies and then Dr. Simpson can supplement. In fact, FEHD and Housing Department will step up the inspection of black spots, and there will be and if there are problems, cleansing will be stepped up. Prosecution action will also be taken. Just now I mentioned 74 cases of prosecution, and then OCs and management companies have been asked to step up cleaning. And if we receive reports about bird droppings, we will step up cleansing. And then if there are people found to be feeding wild birds, and if they refuse to listen to advice, they will be prosecuted. In fact, many members of the public do report to us when they see dead bodies of birds. And I think members of the public can use the 1823 hotline. And in fact, people are already making use of this hotline. And I think this is a very effective way to give reports to us. And we will, of course, send people to do cleansing at the spot immediately. And we also take environmental swabs, and I want to say that we haven't discovered H7 so far. And then migratory birds, let me explain that among wild birds, including migratory birds, there are different types of avian flu viruses. This is a fact. But then normally wild birds do not really have close contacts with humans. And in fact, we have seen hundreds of cases of avian flu worldwide, and very few of them have been caused by contacts between humans and wild birds. Most have been caused by contacts between humans and live poultry. So in other words, wild birds spread the virus to live poultry, and then we have humans keep live poultry in a rather concentrated or crowded condition, and as a result, there is an increased risk of the spreading of the virus among the live poultry, and then a reassortment or mutation may occur. And as a result, the virus may become transmissible to humans. So I just want to say that the viruses mainly come from the wild birds. But then if the strain is transmissible to humans, then that's mainly because the virus is in the live poultry, and then there is a mutation or reassortment. And we have an established policy to close the wetland park if there is a need to do so. And I think I can ask Dr. Sip to supplement. But I wish to ask a follow-up question, but time's up. The Secretary said that if people dialed 1823, then FHD would go to the site to do cleansing. And it said that for those who feed wild birds, they will be prosecuted. Now, if you call 1823, if you report to us that there is the dead body of a bird, then our staff will go there. And if there is a report that there are wild birds gathering, people are feeding wild birds, and of course we'll also send people there to take enforcement action. Deputy Chairman, and then Mr. Chen Shih-chun. Chairman, I want to say that we are extremely confident in the biosecurity measures of local chicken farms. Second, I think the emergency response plan worked out by the government is very sound. But of course, I understand that we've got H7N9 cases in the mainland, so we need to be vigilant. But then we see that we haven't had any locally acquired case of human infection with H5N1 viruses in Hong Kong since 1997. So you can see that the government's preventive measures are sound. Now, in fact, Mr. Wong, Mr. Tang have already told members how difficult it is for chicken farmers to relocate their chicken farms. In fact, there were 3 provisions were mentioned. First of all, in 2006, there was the amended licensing regulation. And in fact, before a certain date, if the place had to have been used for keeping chickens for 12 months, and also after that commencement date, no ex gratia allowance has been paid by the government to the chicken farmers on those sites. Now, why is it that I'm saying that these are very harsh conditions? May I refer to para 3B of the paper? It is said that the government introduced a voluntary surrender scheme and a buyout scheme for poultry retailers, wholesalers, transporters, and farmers in 2004 and 2008 respectively. And as a result, the number of chicken farms has dropped very significantly. And then, for those who surrendered their licenses in 2004, of course, they would not be eligible in 2006 and 2008. And they won't be able to find alternative sites for relocation. In fact, concerning this gentleman raising pigeons, he wants to find another place. And then for chicken farmers, they want new sites so that they can step up their biosecurity measures. Now, at the moment, they face difficulties because chickens are being kept on the farm. So how can I step up biosecurity measures? So I can only find another site, provide better biosecurity measures, and then relocate my operation to that new site. So I want to know whether the government is going to review the guidelines on relocation of chicken farms. And I want to know what you can do to help the chicken farmers. This is very important. If you can help resolve this problem, then there will be sustainable development of the live poultry keeping industry in Hong Kong. Secretary. Yes, Chairman, thank you. As Mr. Ho has pointed out, we had an outbreak of avian flu in 1997, and as a result, there was concern worldwide. And in fact, since then, the spread of H5N1 has not stopped, although we haven't had any locally acquired case of human infection with H5N1 virus since 1997. So at that time, we came up with very stringent measures. And in fact, there was a recommendation by international experts, and that was central slaughtering. And then, but then subsequently at the retail level, and also at the farming level, the scale has been greatly reduced. The number of the level of imports has also been increased. Biosecurity measures have been stepped up. And then we have arrangements like prohibition of overnight stocking of live poultry at retail outlets. And so a few years ago, upon review, we decided that we would stop pursuing the ultimate goal of central slaughtering upon certain conditions being met.
Why
is it that they are testing the bell when we are having a meeting?
投票啊，冇辦法啦。OK， 要投票。
Right, so they need to vote. But please repeat your remarks. He couldn't hear the second part of your reply. I have to go to vote. I want to say that, in fact, after the outbreak in 1997, we decided that we would pursue the direction of central slaughtering. But then, because of the much scaled down activities, we decided that we could stop pursuing the direction, but there were conditions to be met. So I want to say that the Policy Bureau is looking at the various issues. I can't give you a reply today on this one, but I want to say that even if we are not to adopt more stringent measures, we have to at least maintain the status quo so as to control the risk of avian flu at a reasonable level. I want to supplement. Yes, I understand that you need stringent measures, but I want to say that it's very difficult for them to relocate their farms because they are renting the land, and if the landlords refuse to lease the land to them, they can't do anything. Mr. Chen Chi-chun, yes, thank you. Many people in Hong Kong are concerned about the avian flu situation in the mainland and also the situation in Hong Kong. The secretary told us that in Hong Kong we had a 3-tier alert system. And do they have a similar alert system in the mainland? Say if there's a scale, all right, and 10 represents the most serious situation, then what is the present situation in the mainland? Now, according to the mainland authorities, there have been 63 cases and there have been 14 deaths so far. But then there are people who are worried that in the mainland they may underreport the number of cases and deaths. So I want to know whether we are over-worried, and we are now at the alert level. But then maybe if there is one case, if there is one death, then we may quickly escalate to the emergency level. And then second, I want to know whether at the moment the voluntary surrender scheme and the voluntary or the buyout scheme are still valid. And will you encourage more retailers, wholesalers, importers to surrender their licenses? Will you step up the measures? And then some say that if we can have more chicken farms in Hong Kong, then we will not need to import live poultry from the mainland. And as you know, people do not have too much trust in the mainland. So do you think this is a viable option? And then keeping of backyard poultry, there has been there is a ban. I want to know whether you've carried out inspections and have you discovered cases of illegal keeping of backyard poultry. And then it is said that you do have action to combat smuggling of live poultry or raw poultry meat. I want to know whether these operations have been effective.
Well, in the mainland, we've got scattered cases, which means that the virus has been spread among poultries, and various people have at various locations and time following contact with the poultry since the virus has been spreading among the poultry. So various people through contacts with the poultry at different times, different places became infected. So this is what's happening now. I'd like to point out that many people think that why the level in Hong Kong is kept low. It's because Hong Kong uses what we think a three-level system that suits Hong Kong more. So I think the most important is not to look at whether we're at a high or low level, but what we are doing to combat the virus. Is there a classification system in China? Well, I don't want to compare mainland and Hong Kong systems. For example, even for World Health Organization, its system is incomparable with ours because it's designed for the whole world. You know, so situations in countries vary. And here we are a city, so our level, our three-level system is different and cannot be compared to others. As for the surrendering of licenses, after it has been carried for some time, once we've moved into central slaughtering, because of the consensus we've got, and because we think that the risk is at an appropriate level, we've already stopped the voluntary surrender scheme. But we don't know how things will turn out later on, whether there's a need to review the current situation. That's another matter. But as for now, with the current situation of the H759, I think we've done the right thing. You're not finished. Yes, there are more questions. For example, we backyard poultry. My understanding is that Hong Kong doesn't have backyard poultry. There is only 1 or 2 cases of prosecution each year on illegal poultry. So we don't really have backyard poultry. As for data on smuggling, I don't have them. If you need them, we can try to provide you with them after the meeting. Can you look at it the other way? Can Hong Kong provide its people with its own locally bred chickens without relying on supply from the mainland? I think at different times the supply and need will vary. So at this moment in time, as I said earlier, well, not because of the number of cases of H759, people have reservations about consuming chicken. It may be enough for us to keep, or to consuming local chickens. But situation may vary later, and we need to observe the situation for a longer period of time. Mr. Tang has raised his hand, so would you like to, you want to make a comment? Yes, I'm from the chicken farmers group. The government's laws actually have made it difficult for us to survive. There's a law that says, as Mr. Ho said, for example, in paragraph A and B, there's no place appropriate for us to move to for example, merge several farms together to continue our operations. Right now, how long has Hong Kong been affected by the avian flu? It's been 16 years. And all local farms have used their own money, to improve their biosecurity, and there's no subsidy from the government at all. Over the past 16 years, Hong Kong has developed a good reputation because chicken farmers have used their own money to raise the safety level. Now you said you're satisfied with the security level, and yet you are imposing on us outdated bylaws that restrain our operations. As long as you issue more licenses with the level of farming today is enough to provide what we need by having 3 farms only. It's enough to support the local market as long as we have, say, about 10 farms. I hope members can come to my farm. We actually are growing our chickens in an enclosure, and birds will not be allowed into the farm. Okay, I'd like to ask the Secretary, would you like to supplement? No supplement? Okay. So, next one. Mr. Wong Yuk Man. Mr. Wong Yuk Man. Well, if he likes to speak, yeah, I can let him speak. Mr. Wong? The bird flu actually is something that we need to take preventions against. I think it's good for us to move our farms to a better location away from densely populated areas. So that's a good idea. And that's also a good way of preventing the spread of the the avian flu. Therefore, I support the chairman setting up a working group to look at this matter. If we can actually move the farms away, then that's a good thing. And for pigeons, I've got a friend who's kept more than 100 pigeons on a rooftop and in where he lives. And we can't kill them, so what can we do with these pigeons on the rooftop? Next one, Mo Yuk Man. Now the government adopts the attitude that we all know that should the H759 virus spreads in Hong Kong, then of course the consequence would be very bad. The Secretary is saying that, he has to monitor the situation. But how many live chickens we have in Hong Kong? The figures every day. If you stop the surrendering license scheme because nothing has happened yet. But we need to be psychologically prepared for central slaughtering. In the end, should the virus spread in Hong Kong, all of you will have to quit. All your business will be gone should the virus spread in Hong Kong. So now we can't be too afraid, and nobody objects to biosecurity. Hong Kong people's health is very important. At this moment in time, you also need to think of ways to protect these farmers' interests. Otherwise, why are we inviting the farmers here? So you need to, before these farmers are driven out of business, we need to try to protect their interests. That's what we've been asking for, like transporters of chicken feeds. There was one who protested openly, standing on the bridge. So what's the root of all this problem? It's because the government's policy has made an error. There was a police inspector who died incidentally, while talking to the transporter of chicken feeds who was standing on the bridge in a protest move. So we do hope that now that the avian flu virus is spreading in the mainland, and since Hong Kong is at risk, so we need to think of a way what we can do to help the farmers to find out more about the difficulties facing these farmers. Just as the Secretary said the chicken sale is not good. Of course, it's not good. But we need to think of, ways to help. You can see that, after all, maybe you don't want to say it. Maybe you just want to see this chicken farming industry to disappear, using the excuse of public health. Maybe you just want to destroy the whole industry. Maybe you're just trying to ignore the chances of survival of these people. And secondly, in terms of preventing the spread of H7N9, you said you're worried about the flying south of migratory birds and the increased risk of the bird flu in Hong Kong. But the H7N9 virus, we don't know what is natural or future consequences would be. You have done your test to dead birds, but have you considered extending your tests to live birds, or even increase your sample checks of dead bodies of birds? And I also like to point out that if the situation in the mainland deteriorates, or even if there's an epidemic, if human-to-human transmission happens, what will you do? Can you give me some concrete answers? Would you restrict the number of people coming to Hong Kong on individual visits? Let me reiterate that our policy on managing poultry is, as you pointed out, very stringent. At this stage, I would definitely try to ensure that the chances of a bird flu happening in Hong Kong, I would try to keep the chance of that happening to a minimum. So our goal and our energy will be focused on protecting Hong Kong people from the virus. As for tests of H7N9, I believe that all the samples that we've collected, all the dead bird samples will be tested to see if they are infected with the virus. It's not just some dead bodies that we test. So we don't need to increase any more samples. But how about samples of live birds? Well, we will not conduct tests on live birds because, of course, in our routine management of wild animals, there could be a chance of us to, in routine inspection, we might get samples of birds, but we won't just catch live birds on purpose for the sake of testing them. Chairman, he didn't really answer my first question. Maybe he thought he did answer. He said that we need to focus energy on the priorities to avoid the spread of the virus, the bird flu in Hong Kong. But I don't know what priority you put to protecting the livelihood of the farmers. Any supplement, Secretary? Just as Mr. Wong mentioned, what's our ultimate purpose? I think what you suggested does not represent what the government thinks. And also, another point is that testing of wild birds, different virus have different consequences to different types of bird species. We know poultry may look healthy, but in the wild birds, samples of wild birds, you get higher chances of having positive results in the wake of tests. Well, I can accept that it's not the government's purpose to drive chicken farmers out of business. make these people difficult to survive. But then what you've done actually lead to the consequence of making it difficult for the chicken farmers to survive. Why is it that Mr. Leung Kam Hong's case is on the agenda today? It's because Mr. Leung, in case 7, redevelopment project, he wanted to find a place to move to another place to showcase his pigeons. I think his case shows that it reflects the government's attitude towards people like him. I also need to openly thank AFCD and Food and Environmental Hygiene Department for their effort in the past. The two departments, indeed, in the past few months have given him much assistance and help and support. Now we're at a critical stage. Dr. Sid just then said that in Bird Street, there's no problem giving an exhibition license for Bird Street, and Mr. Leung also is willing to vaccinate de-raised pigeons, like what chicken farmers do to their chickens. So that's the case now. So it's now up to the government. Right, Secretary says you don't want to drive farmers out of business. So now there's someone, Mr. Leung, who raises pigeons. Can you provide concrete help to him?
So how can you convince us that you are not only paying lip service to what you've promised? Now, Dr. Sid would like to supplement, Chairman. Now, in fact, we've issued an exhibition license for Mr. Leung to keep raising pigeons at home. And then concerning Bird Street, as a place where birds are sold, pet birds. But then this is not a place for the selling of poultry, including pigeons, because if the pigeons fly around, then they may also spread viruses to the other birds. But according to Mr. Leung, the raising pigeons will not be released. They will be put in cages. In fact, the pigeons have been kept in cages since 1999 when there was the last competition. Now, I don't want to go into the details in this panel concerning one individual case, but then Dr. Sid is worried that the pigeons may fly around and may infect other birds on Bird Street. Maybe after the panel meeting, you can follow up the matter with Dr. Sid and other officials responsible for your case. And now I would like to go back to my first point. Secretary, you keep saying that you have no intention to wipe out the live poultry keeping business in Hong Kong. But then Mr. Wong Yun Tai and Mr. Tang Wai Lun talked about the actual difficulties they faced, and I believe you are aware of these difficulties. So how can you help them resolve these difficulties so that they can continue to do their business? And according to Mr. Tang, if we have a sufficient number of chickens kept and reared in Hong Kong, then we can have the whole process from farm to table in Hong Kong. And there is no need to rely on imported live poultry. Dr. Koh. Chairman, Now, we want to maintain the status quo with regard to the number of retailers, wholesalers, farmers, and we do not want to increase the quantity of live poultry kept in Hong Kong. And talking about having more live poultry kept in Hong Kong so that we can be self-sufficient, so to speak, we do not want to see this happen. Nor do we have a policy to, or rather we don't have a policy to increase the number of retail outlets or the number of farms and the quantity of live poultry kept. We want to continue to step up our security measures. We want to step up hygiene at the retail outlets. This will help bring the risk level of avian flu in Hong Kong to a low one. Right, we've got members who would like to follow up in the second round, including the Deputy Chairman. I think Mr. Wong and Mr. Tang talked about the actual difficulties faced by chicken farmers. As I understand that you do not want to see an increase in the number of retail outlets, you don't want to see an increase in the quantity of live poultry kept in Hong Kong. Still, you have to help them resolve the difficulties that they face. Chairman, as I have already said, I will not comment on individual cases. I just want to say that the departments concerned and the Bureau are aware of the issues, and in fact these issues are being looked at. All right, we have two members for the second round, Ms. Helena Wong and the Deputy Chairman, and we have about 8 minutes left for this item. And I understand that Mr. Tang Wai-lun would also like to speak. So I'll give Mr. Tang 1 minute and the two members 4 minutes each. Mr. Tang, I want to say that at the moment we can keep up to 1.3 million chickens under our licenses, but in fact there are only about 900,000 chickens being kept in Hong Kong at the moment. This is because the low season is coming, and in fact we have 7,000 chickens coming in every day, and as a result we are not really keeping chickens up to the allowed capacity. And then we want to have our farms relocated, and the department keeps saying that the Bureau doesn't allow that, and you know many of the farms have to they have to move. The secretary is saying that the matter is being studied. In fact, we've written to him already many times. Ms. Helena Wong, I've got two questions. First, if members of the public or children feed wild birds, wild pigeons on the streets, will they be prosecuted? That's the first question. Second, the notification mechanism for for influenza A. I understand that our officials are vigilant, and then in the mainland, Madam Liu Yendong, the Vice Premier of the State Council, is responsible for steering the fight in the mainland against H7N9. Then I want to know whether what our mechanism is, and do we try to synchronize with their mechanism. And then is it that there is this there is an information notification mechanism between Hong Kong and the mainland. Is it that for the Guangdong Provincial Ministry, Madam Liu Yendong's office, will they give us the necessary information as soon as possible, or do we have to send our own people to the mainland to obtain the information, or is it that the CPG will issue the information to Hong Kong as well as to provinces and cities in the mainland at the same time? All right, I think Mr. Fan can say something about enforcement action. No, of course, we have to come to our own assessment, and before we come to our assessment, we have information from the WHO, and we also have information from the National Health and Family Planning Commission. In fact, at an early stage, the National Health and Family Planning Commission started announcing the figures, and for confirmed cases, in fact, they are all confirmed by the National Health and Family Planning Commission. And in fact, we do have liaison with Guangdong, where there hasn't been, where there haven't been cases of H7N9 yet, and so we have close liaison with the National Health and Family Planning Commission as well as provincial authorities. And in fact, we've already sent at least 4 teams to the mainland, and such visits will continue. Then as to whether the notification is immediate, I can't promise that, but at least the notification will be on the same day. Now, because in the mainland they also need time to confirm the case. Let's say, for example, a patient may be admitted in the morning, tests have to be carried out, reports have to be made to the commission and to the ministry, and it takes a few hours to complete the test. But then every day we are able to receive the most updated figures from the commission. And then Mr. Fan can supplement with regard to enforcement action. I think a reply should be given after the meeting because we don't have enough time. Deputy Chairman, I want to say something about the Changsha Wan live poultry market. Do you know why our local farmers feel so unhappy about or are so worried about chickens from the mainland? Because if there is one chicken from the mainland which has the virus, then they will suffer as well. And if they are not allowed to sell chickens, they won't get any compensation or what. And as a result, we have chicken farmers, chicken retailers staging protests. And then now, you know, there is this case with regard to the relocation of the pigeon farm. Now, Mr. Leung used to have a place to sell pigeons, and if he can find a place, a suitable place, and if he can step up the preventive measures, why is it that he's not allowed to relocate his business? Now, the secretary said that he wanted to see the present level of live poultry activities maintained. But if you adopt such policies, then I don't think the present level of activities can be maintained. There will be negative growth, no doubt. Again, can the secretary's microphone be switched on? Changsha Wan, and also before Dr. Sit gives a reply, I want to say that I'm no expert in animals or birds, but I think pigeons pose unique risks. I will not comment on whether the risks are big or small. Now, because pigeons are not kept as pets. And then if pigeons are to be eaten, then they are live poultry. And if they are raising pigeons, then of course they will fly around. So I think we have to make this clear. I don't want to talk about one particular case or the background of one case. I understand that the case has to do with raising pigeons, but then we're talking about risks. Pigeons may be infected with the viruses, and raising pigeons fly around. And so I hope the members will understand that I'm not going to do anything about the raising pigeons. But if these raising pigeons are kept, not for human consumption, not for flying around, not for competition, now, not to be kept as pets. Now, I really don't know. I believe you want these pigeons to be raising pigeons, but then I think we have to be very careful about this idea under the present circumstances.
Seems like we have to issue licenses, but you have to think of the purposes of your licenses. You have to think carefully. Excuse me for being frank. Well, Hong Kong has raised his hand. Okay, you can ask your question. Thank you, Chairman. I agree with the government policy. That is, we need to be more careful with live poultry. I know this morning you had a meeting with people in the trade, and you were in the front line, I know. And you said, and you did ask them, people who work at the front line, to be careful. I think now, where should we get our chickens from, which would carry a bigger risk? I think now it may be too early to make a judgment, on whether we should stop the sale of chicken from China. Hong Kong has already got rapid tests, and if chickens are found to be infected, then you put them in Changsha 1 instead of releasing them to the market. So that's a good safety measure. So you can carry on with this, and if it can ensure that chicken imported, the 7,000 chickens imported are safe, then that's fine. I know that there aren't that many, not as many as 7,000 imported anymore. The chicken market has gone down, so we won't be getting that many chickens from China anyway. So I support the policy now being implemented by the government, and I hope that you would not actually kill any business. No need for response? Okay. Right. So I think that's it for this item. Thank you all for attending today's meeting. The next item is proposals to better regulate pet trading, report on the outcome of the public consultation and legislate. Next one is on the alignment of charges. Alignment of charges by the two departments. We need to wait for Professor Sylvia Chen Shu-Chi.
哇！乜全部走晒乜佢？陳肇始係咪換晒人啦？全部。好，歡迎李副局長。
Welcome, Undersecretary. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, the name of the officials with us are in the paper. For to save time, Professor Chen Could you take us through the paper for this item on alignment of fees and charges of the Food and Environmental Hygiene Department? Thank you. Maybe I'll talk about this paper. The Chief Executive in 2013 in his policy address announced that the government planned to amend the law to amend the fees, align the fees and charges for municipal facilities and services provided by FEHD in the urban areas and the new territories. The lower rate will prevail. And the FEHD will carry out a thorough review of the charges for various services and also fee levels, and they will make proposals to the Financial Secretary as soon as possible. We are now proposing that to align the charges for 93 charges for FEHD, and this would actually mean a unilateral 30% fee reduction and 6,300 fixed-pitched hawkers will benefit, and 40,000 people using the crematorium will also benefit, and some food licensees would also benefit. They make about 39% of the total number of licensees. And we have submitted the relevant amendment to electrical, and we hope that by July 3rd we can have the alignment approved by electrical through negative vetting. Hopefully the new amendment will be implemented on July 4th. And also on various fee items, we'll review their fee levels and rationale. We have carried out some initial work already so that we can have reviews of various fee items on step-by-step basis and through various stages. Thank you. Now I see whether members have any questions on what the Under Secretary has said. Alignment of fees and charges of the FEHD. Wong Ko-hing. Well, simply, I think for the current administration to resolve the fee issues, I do welcome this move. And it shows that the new administration is getting things done. But I'd like to ask this Under Secretary, how about publicity? How are you going to deal with that? That's very important because it can help people or users of your services have a clear understanding of the fees. How are you going to enhance publicity? Thank you, Mr. Wong. We do have arrangements for that. We planned that on May 8th, we will submit the subsidiary legislation of the alignment of fees to LegCo, and we also issue a press release on the same day. And on May 8th, on the FEHD website, we will also post on it all the details of the fees and charges and implementation details. The relevant subsidiary legislation will be gazetted on May 10th. We hope that after the gazetto and after that is from the period May 10th to July 3rd, that's before the law is approved, we will issue notices or write letters to various associations such as the vendors associations, hawkers associations, or licensed small hawker associations, and various working groups will write to them, to inform them of the change. Wong Ko-hing, I'd like to ask the administration. Well, I think. Well, how about if an abnormal situation happens? Because from next Wednesday there could be filibustering in electrical, and should filibustering happen, then that could affect normal meetings here. We don't know how long the filibustering will last. Maybe we won't even get our salaries on the 31st of next month. So if that's the case, would you have any, should that happen, are you prepared for the fact that maybe the subsidiary legislation may not be submitted to electrical on May 8th? Do you have any backup plan? Undersecretary? Thank you. I think electrical has its own established procedures. So should what is mentioned happen, we would need to follow the established procedures. We maybe I'll ask the secretary to supplement. Our understanding is that should filibustering happen, and if there are delays to the bills, the subsidiary legislation would still take or become effective as scheduled. That is on July 4th. It will. It can still come into effect. Okay, that's good. In other words, filibustering in electrical would not affect your plan to align fees and charges. Right? Yes, that's right. That's good news. Mr. Wong knows, well, if the members in the House committees set up a Bills Committee, and if the Bills Committee asks for meetings, then theoretically they could still veto the subsidiary legislation proposal. But anyway, I'm not going to say a lot. Chairman, you may better call on people not to do unnecessary things. Okay, any other members have any questions on paper 944/121306? Chen Ka-lok. I'd like to ask the administration. Well, this is only the first step. You said there will be two steps. The first step is, as you said, is to, in line with the demand in the Chief Executive's policy address, adopt the lower fee for the alignment of fees and charges. And there's also the second step of reviewing the rationale of charging. So my question is, in the future, when you come to adjusting fees, would you consider the reduction in your income caused by the alignment of fees and charges this time? For example, if you receive tens of millions of dollars less from the current exercise, would you put this as one of your considerations in your future fee review to recover as much cost as possible? Now it may be a good news, happy news, knowing that fees may be reduced. But later on after review, will we see fees go up again? Undersecretary. Thank you, Mr. Chen. I think on the whole, the principle of the review is, there are all sorts of fees and charges now, but they may not actually achieve the purpose of cost recovery. So which is the principle. And maybe you can ask the deputy director to give you more information on other principles. Yes, I think the entire review is a big surgery. Now, lowering down the fee is to avoid any delay in aligning the fees and charges. But the upcoming review, that's a big surgery, and we do need to balance various principles in the exercise. One is to see whether they can all recover the cost, and also we need to consider the public's level of affordability. And if you are to increase fees in the future, what's the range of increase that's affordable? So we need to look at the fees on a case-by-case basis. In the future, there's a large amount of work for us to do. And during the licensing process, whether the current process is the most cost-effective, or if there's any room for us to simplify the process. So we have to look at a host of factors in deciding on future fee levels. So whether we have to raise the fees in the future to make up for the reduction this time, I don't think it's as simple as that. Thank you. I'm sure people know about my worries, and anyway, we'll follow up on that later on.
All right. If no other member wants to ask questions on this one, Ms. Mo, do you have questions for the next item? Yes, the next item. All right, so let's move on to agenda item number 5, members. Proposals to better regulate pet trading, report on the outcome of public consultation and legislative proposals. So we have with us Professor Sophia Chan and Mr. Christopher Wong, Deputy Secretary for Food and Health, Food, Dr. Thomas Sid, Assistant Director, Inspection and Quarantine, AFCD, and Dr. Jeffrey Chai, Senior Vet Officer, Animal Management Operations, AFCD. So welcome the officials, and I understand that the Undersecretary would like to take us through the paper. Is that right? It's paper CB29441213/07. Yes, you can start, Professor Chan. Thank you, Chairman. So these are proposals to better regulate pet trading. I want to report to members that we've already completed the public consultation exercise, and we've come up with some legislative proposals. As members may recall, from October to November last year, we conducted a public consultation exercise on proposed measures to better regulate pet trading in the interest of enhancing animal health and welfare. And we are now reporting to members the outcome of the consultation exercise. And we will also brief members on the legislative proposals drawn up in the light of the views received. As members may recall, in November last year, we briefed the panel on our proposals. We also listened to the views of the deputations present and members. In fact, the AFCD held 4 consultation fora and met with representatives of the animal groups, pet traders, pet breeder association members, vet associations, and kennel club members. We have also consulted the Animal Welfare Advisory Group. And we have also met with representatives of some animal groups after the consultation period ended. And we had exchanges with them. We heard their suggestions. In fact, the public, in fact, have a clear consensus on the need to better regulate pet trading in the interest of enhancing animal health and welfare. And in fact, a lot of the proposals have attracted widespread support. But of course, we have also received comments concerning how the proposals are to be implemented. So I will now talk about the legislative proposals and also the way forward. First of all, increasing penalties. Now, concerning the maximum penalty for breach of licensing conditions and illegal trading of animals, we are proposing to increase the maximum penalty levels. In fact, most respondents support our proposal, and some have suggested more severe penalties, including imprisonment terms. But then we're talking about an increase from $1,000 to $50,000 and from $2,000 to $100,000 for breach of licensing conditions and illegal trading of animals, respectively. And we're talking about 50-folds of the current levels. So we will be proposing the increase of such penalties. And then the second point, providing the director of AFC with powers to revoke ATLs for offences under Cap 169. And we propose to provide the director with the power to revoke or resign licenses issued under Cap 139B. And for those who have been convicted of offences related to cruelty or maltreatment of animals, their licenses may be revoked or resigned. But of course, some are worried that those who have had their licenses revoked or resigned may apply for licenses again in the future. And so we intend to kick forward the proposal of providing the director of the power to revoke or resign or to refuse to grant or renew the licenses under Cap 139B if the licensee has been convicted of an offence related to cruelty to and maltreatment of animals under Cap 169. And then a third issue, tightening the regulation of animal breeders. We propose to remove the exemption that a person may sell his own pet and the pet's offspring without an ATL. And we are proposing 4 types of licenses or permits, namely ATLs, Animal Breeding License Category A, Animal Breeder License Category B, and one-off permits. And most respondents support our proposal. I understand that some respondents do not support these proposals. In fact, we've on some occasions tried to explain the rationale of our proposal and our position. And some are of the view that we should not issue one-off permits. I want to say that we hope to regulate all sorts of trading activities involving dogs. And even so people even the PPOs, they will be their trading activities will also be regulated. And concerning the one-off permit system, according to the legal advice we have, a complete ban on trading of pets by PPOs will amount to a control of use of property, and this is a likely breach of the relevant provisions in the Basic Law in relation to individual rights to property ownership, acquisition, use, and disposal. And such infringement of individual rights is considered disproportionate when compared with the objective to regulate commercial pet breeders. And what is more, we've looked at developed countries like the UK, the US, Australia, and New Zealand, and they haven't imposed any bans on the sale of pet dogs by owners. And so on balance, we think it's appropriate to introduce one-off permits for PPOs, but then we will tighten the suggested arrangement of allowing an owner to sell 2 dogs in 2 years and replace it by a provision that allows an owner to sell not more than 3 dogs in 10 years. So we hope that this will prevent any possible abuse. And some are of the view that we should not issue ABLAs. I understand that those who hold this view hope that we can have ABLBs, the more stringent type of license regulating all commercial breeders. We understand such concerns, but then we are of the view that hobby breeders also need to be regulated, and we do not want to their operations to go underground, because if these breeders go underground, it will be difficult for us to protect animal welfare and public health. So we have taken into account the operating characteristics of hobby breeding, and we have decided to tighten the licensing conditions for ABLAs. AFCD will regularly inspect ABLA premises to ensure compliance with licensing conditions and the proposed code of practice. The AFCD will also assess the resources it needs to carry out such inspections. And some have suggested that our new policies should be extended to cover cats as well. Now, I want to say that at the moment we want to cover dogs first because the welfare of dogs was compromised more frequently and to a greater extent than other types of pets, and also dogs comprise the largest share of the pet market. And in 2012, the number of imported dogs was 4 times the number of imported cats. And also, according to the figures collated by the CNS department in 2010, the dog household rate in Hong Kong almost doubled the dog household rate for cats. And that's why, as the first step, we will apply the new policies to dogs only. But of course, we will keep in view the effectiveness of the new regulations, and we will at a later stage assess whether there is a need to extend the coverage of the regulations to cover other pet animals. Finally, I note that some groups want us to go one step further. They want us to do more. I hope the members will understand that we need to adopt a gradual approach. We shouldn't be overambitious. And we feel that the set of proposals represents a big step forward to enhance animal health and welfare. And I think this is a significant step forward. So we will draft the amendments under Cap 139B, and we hope to table the amendments to LegCo within 2013. Now, because we have to start the last item on public markets at 7:10 p.m. and I understand that many members want to speak on this subject, and Ms. Mo will be moving a motion, and so each member can only have 3 minutes. Claudia Mo, Wong Kwok Heng, Helena Wong, Kenneth Chen, Chen Chi-chun, Tommy Zhang, Vincent Fang. 3 minutes for each member. Ms. Claudia Mo. Chairman, I have reason to believe that the Undersecretary has been preoccupied with handling H7N9. Your speech contains terms like clear support, clear consensus. I'm sure that speech has been prepared by the AFCD. But do you know that at those briefings, at those exchange sessions, people were not able to see eye to eye, and there were people who really banged on the table. So you're proposing a licensing system, and so things that are at the moment unlawful will be made lawful under a licensing system. And according to some groups, if people fight in private, you may not be able to take any action, and so you are giving a license for people to fight in public. You're talking about people. We're talking about people with different needs, and I think you are having these measures to fit their needs.
If you think you heard the hearts of many to say that, bred animals are properties, personal properties. Just then, you also said that it's difficult to castrate animals. In paragraph 26C, you says that dogs are required to have exercise at least 1 hour per day. That's not just impractical. I'm an animal lover. I can tell you this is impractical. No matter how much I love my pets, I can't do it. You are actually just making up things here. Can the Bureau, I think particularly Dr. Cohen-Man, who is very sincere, I'm sure Professor Chan is very sincere too, can you provide a uniform license without asking people to fit particular or certain categories? You can't really enforce a law in private premises. Can you just issue one kind of license? Thank you, Ms. Mo. We heard your view before. In issuing the 4 licenses, our considerations were that apart from meeting the needs of various people, we actually were trying to be more stringent. For example, in the past, there was a dog breeding license that has exemption, but now we are going to revoke the exemption. Even now, if you have a pet, like if you are going to emigrate and you want to, you should, but that person would give the pet to other people, not sell. But your law actually is encouraging people to sell the pets. Next one, Mr. Wong Pok Hing, followed by Wong Pigman. Okay, my first question is, I urge the administration to include cats, but you want to wait till after this law is implemented. Do you have a time frame for review when you can include cats as well? And second question is, the new law, can it avoid breeding of dogs in residential premises? Because within residential premises, if you allow dog breeding, that would actually cause a lot of nuisance to other households and also pose risk to the health of dogs. My third question is, the government is, the current law, would it actually address the issue of, avoiding crossbreeding. Breeders actually may mix various species together, and this could lead to problems in the future. 3 questions altogether. Undersecretary. Thank you, Mr. Wong. First question, I'll answer that, and I'll ask Dr. Sid to answer the next 2 questions. For cats, we've heard various views on this. They do hope that we can include cats as well and other pets as well. As I said before, we are going to extend the law to other animals. We want to start with dogs because we have microchips for dogs. Once we have gathered some experience, our next step is to consider whether to include cats and how to go about doing that. Dr. Sid. Thank you, Mr. Wong. He mentioned about how we can avoid dog breeding in residential households. In the future, we would review a premises to see whether it's suitable for breeding and whether it has the facility to take care of newly born dogs. So we have to look at the individual premises. In Hong Kong, some people live in bigger flats, some in smaller flats. So it would depend on each case. So in other words, you have to carry out on-site inspection of the person applying for a license first. Yes, we will have inspections of the site. Yes, and then next question on crossbreeding. All animals, various species, like for dogs, they can there could be congenital diseases. Congenital diseases of various in various dogs. So we don't know. We can't be sure what kinds of genetic diseases could happen if one species of dog is bred with another species. But we will call on all dog owners if they have any questions about genetic diseases, they should consult their vets. I think my concerns 2 and 3 would be reflected in the draft bill. Wong Pik Wan, followed by Kenneth Chen. Thank you. We are concerned about animal rights. And we feel that now that in the absence of legal regulations, pets in private households, whether big or small, animals bred in private premises need to be regulated. But for the paper itself, I hope that you can answer some questions. I'm particularly concerned with 2 things. One is the code of practice. In the constitutive document, there's only 2 pages on code of practice. We believe that you may need to provide more details. I know you've collected some views during the consultation period, but I hope that you will consider for the code of practice to introduce a ceiling on Category B type of license. There should be a ceiling on the number of animals to be bred in the premises. Because if you don't set a ceiling, then are we encouraging breeding of animals, to create or to boost businesses in breeding of animals? I don't think we're here to encourage breeding. We're here to regulate only. So we may need to consider setting a reasonable number for animals bred. And also for the issuing of licenses, should we issue a maximum number? Like taxi licenses, you would have limit, right, on the number of licenses issued. You will not encourage people to keep getting licenses, right? Whether it's 1 to 4 or 1,000 pets, we need to set a limit as part of regulations. Ms. Wong, please give him time to answer. If you can't answer me today, please ask him to provide the answer in writing. And as for the breeders, especially private breeders, 74% of the breeders are home breeders. So we don't want the home breeders to, have to breed in the absence of knowledge. And we don't want to have, see the delivery of the birth of sick animals which end up being killed. Would you consider introducing a system, licensing system under which the breeders need to take some lessons on breeding first? And they need to be examined on their basic knowledge before you issue a category A or B licenses to them. So would you introduce a kind of examination system under Code of Practice? So please, Secretary, give them the answer in writing. Kenneth Chan, followed by Chen Ji-chin. Thank you. Chairman. Paragraph 10 in the paper, it mentions basic law. It doesn't mention which section of basic law, but I have had talked to some officials. I think it's about the section on private property. That is, in other words, you are regarding pets as the private property of dog owners. I have written to the Bureau, hoping to get its view on how it can persuade the public that in the long run, if there is whether we can have better regulations of the animal trade. But I think Section 105 of the Basic Law actually is something that the whole society need to have more understanding of. Now I strongly urge the Bureau to let us know what your legal opinion is on this. As for Code of Practice, many associations concerned with animal rights are, how are you going to do it? For example, we've got some issues on the safety of lips, regulation of lips. And some bureau says that they do have random checks on lips. But random checks are not perfect. There must be loopholes in random checks. Can you tell us now, based on your present COP proposal, are you sure it will achieve the purpose you want to achieve? We need to call on the government to be, a dutiful law enforcing authority. You have to introduce, provisions that are enforceable. If you don't have the manpower and resources, then that is a cause of worry to us. Okay, answer please, Undersecretary. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chen. As for legal opinion, we believe that we have actually listed the relevant legal point of views in our paper. And as for your point on our Code of Practice, we actually had carried out a widespread consultation in devising a Code of Practice. And there are also some principles that we stick to. For any Code of Practice, we hope that particularly in the initial stage, we will have public education to help people involved comply with the code voluntarily. The next step will be, if there are difficulties in enforcing the law, we'll carry out a review. But how can you ensure that dogs can exercise once a day. How can you make sure that it does exercise once a day? How can you enforce that provision? Law enforcement issue. If not, you can give an answer in writing. Okay, time's up. So, next one, Chen Chi-chun, followed by Tommy Zhang. Chairman, at our subcommittee last time, we were talking about fostering health and welfare of animals. We had a consensus last time that the goal was to minimize animal trade. But now it seems that the direction is changed because the Bureau cites the basic law. And if there is a chance of violation of the basic law, then even after this amendment is passed, if I buy a dog today, if I want to sell it next week, I can't sell it then. So is it a kind of interference with my private property and my right to dispose of my private property? Now, you have introduced it to increase it to 3 dogs in 10 years. Is that still a kind of unreasonable constraint on change of private property? Of course, I know that it's better to have regulation than no regulation, but you may have regulations on licensing, but will we see a large increase in the number of licenses?
Will we have enough people to carry out inspections? Let's say, for example, if you have only 5 people carry out inspections and then you have thousands of licenses, then you won't be able to cover all the premises within 1 year. And then it is said in the Code of Practice that licensees and staff working in licensed premises are trained to the satisfaction of the AFCD. And what is meant by to the satisfaction of the AFCD? Are there any standards? Is there a qualification framework? Yes, Under Secretary. Yes, I thank Mr. Chan for his 3 questions. I think the Deputy Secretary can answer the first question. Chairman. Now for PPOs treating their pets, we are also proposing some regulation. But then if we impose a complete ban on trading of pets by PPOs, then the infringement of individual rights or the interference is disproportionate to the objective we want to achieve. According to the legal advice we've got, the restrictions we are proposing are reasonable, but if there is a complete ban, then that would affect the people's rights to dispose of their property. But then, now in fact, concerning rights to private property, if I buy a dog today, I should be allowed to sell it 2 weeks later. Is that right? But you're not allowing that. Now, in fact, now we are imposing conditions on the trading. We'll be imposing a control on numbers. You mean trading the dogs or the offsprings? And Chairman, I want to say that we may need to have more manpower resources in order that we can take enforcement action effectively. So we will assess the extra manpower resources we need. And of course, when the government enacts legislation, it has to make sure that it can enforce the legislation. Is it that when the bill is tabled in LegCo, there will also be information about the extra manpower resources needed? Chairman, we have some ideas at the moment, and once the bill has been finalized, then we will also assess the manpower implications. But I want to point out that when we enact legislation, we also have to make sure that the legislation can be enforced. And so we will consider very seriously the need for additional resources. Mr. Tommy Cheung, now I will try to be brief in my questions because I don't want to have no time left for officials to give replies. Now, I don't know whether I can stay to vote on Ms. Mo's motion. I want to say that I support the administration's approach, and so I cannot support Ms. Mo's motion. And then there will be legislation, and then you may implement the user's pay principle. All right. So you may have to hire 1,000 to 2,000 people to administer the licensing system and to inspect the premises. So you can't have the legislation passed first and then you come to us for funding, and then you are telling us that you have to set the license fees at certain levels because you have to recover the costs. And I'm sure there will be a lack of harmony if that's what's going to happen. Now, I think I'm fair to you. I have spoken for 1.5 minutes, and I am giving you 1.5 minutes to give a reply. And I think you have to tell us all the financial and cost implications. You have to give us the full picture. How many extra people will you need? And will the license fees be unaffordable? Undersecretary. Yes, thank you. In proposing these types of licenses, the AFCD has considered the need to have more people to conduct inspections. I think Dr. Sid can give Mr. Cheung more information about our thinking. Now, what I'm trying to say is that you can't ask us to pass the legislation first and then you come to us for money and then you tell us what the license fees are. Now, you don't have to explain things to me. I don't keep dogs. I've never kept a dog in my life. I think you owe those people who intend to obtain licenses in future an explanation. Dr. Sid, you only have about 10 seconds. Yes, Chairman, thank you. Deciding on the level of license fees, we have to take into account our costs, including manpower resources for inspection. But I think you have to tell us all the financial implications before the legislation is enacted. Now, Undersecretary, I believe you understand Mr. Tommy Cheung's concern. Mr. Vincent Fang. Yes, thank you, Chairman. I want to ask about the procedures to apply to operate a breeding place. Now, I believe that at the moment there are these breeding premises already, and they are licensed by the AFCD. But then I understand that FSD and other departments also impose their respective conditions. These commercial breeding premises are commercial behavior or commercial acts, and so very complicated fire services requirements and other requirements have to be satisfied. So can there be breeding premises in commercial buildings? In my view, breeding should take place in farms. But at the moment, some farms can't, or farm operators can't obtain licenses. So can we have the AFCD providing a one-stop service for applicants for breeding grounds or breeding premises? So can I ask the Undersecretary how commercial breeders can obtain licenses so that they can carry out their activities lawfully? I think the AFCD can give a reply. Mr. Sit. Yes, thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Fang. If a person wants to obtain a breeding license, he should approach the AFCD. And we look at the area of the premises and other factors, and then we impose or lay down licensing conditions. And then other departments like the planning department, they also have their regulations to enforce. And so it's quite impossible for the AFCD to provide a one-stop service. But what if the AFCD agrees to give me a license, but the FSD doesn't give me a license? Now, this is because we want more people to be able to get licenses to operate breeding establishments or breeding premises. So in the government, it seems that the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. So is it that you want to encourage the proliferation of unlicensed or unlawful breeding premises? Dr. Sit, in fact, we've sought the advice of the DOJ chairman. Now, if a person can satisfy our conditions, then we, the AFCD, will issue a license. But then concerning the other departments, a dozen of them, it's for them to take their respective law enforcement action, and we can't take law enforcement action on their behalf. But then, Chairman, can there be a one-stop service for applicants of such licenses? Undersecretary, I believe you understand what Mr. Vincent Fang wants. All right, so we've completed the first round, and I want to make a few points now. Well, concerning Article 105 of the Basic Law, I want to ask you, since when pets have been regarded as private property under Article 105 of the Basic Law? Because say when the pet is kept, it doesn't have offsprings yet. In other words, this is property that doesn't exist at the time the pet is kept. So please consider this point. And then the Code of Practice. Not all the details are included in this paper, but I would suggest that when the bill is tabled in LegCo, the Code of Practice should be annexed to the bill. And then members are worried that you may come up with new regulations, but you are not able to take law enforcement action effectively. This is also my concern, because LegCo doesn't want to pass a piece of legislation which you are unable to enforce effectively. And then we've got Miss Claudia Mo's motion here. So, Ms. Helena Wong, I'm sorry I can't allow a second round of questions. Ms. Mo, would you like to briefly introduce your motion to members? Yes, thank you, Chairman. Now, I would like to urge the AFCD to issue one type of breeding license only. And this one type of license should be applicable to commercial as well as private breeders and traders. Now, that would facilitate regulation and control. Now, I'm not here to argue with you about Article 105, private property. There is no point arguing. Barrister A may not agree with Barrister B on the interpretation of this article, but I think what is important is that breeding premises must be regulated. And also for PPOs we hope that we can encourage them to say if they emigrate, give their pets to others instead of trading those pets. So I want to have a division, Chairman. All right, the clerk, is it that we need to ring the bell? Is it that we need to ring the division bell?
應該秘書位嘅，會喺你嗰邊。係。啊，嚟緊。啊，呢個聲唔同。響幾耐啊？5分鐘。5分鐘。我哋 quorum 係5人，而家夠嘛 ？OK。2、3、4、5、6，而家6個。 OK，咁你舉係舉手嘅就冇。
Those in favor, please raise your hands. Those opposed, raise your hands. Those who abstain. Three in favor, 2 abstains, and 1 who opposed. So I now declare that the motion has been passed. Okay. Next item, the last item, we would like to get the Undersecretary Sophia Chan to talk about the improvement of operating environment of public markets and related issues. You can be brief. Just follow-up issues here. Can you just be brief? Thank you. Firstly, let me report to you on situation on improving the environment. At the panel meeting last time, we heard from members and deputations, hawkers in markets, and the secretary and me and colleagues from our bureau and FEHD have been to various markets. And as mentioned in paragraph 4 of the paper, we are now planning to hire a consultant to help us to lay down some improvement measures for various markets. We hope that various markets can have their own positioning and functions. From what we saw, we found that some markets may be in better conditions, some may be in not so favorable conditions, and the operating environments also differ from market to market, very much depending on nearby facilities or whether there are retail outlets or supermarkets in the vicinity. So it's not just about the environment within the market alone. So we will hire a consultant, a professional consultant with retail and design knowledge. And we also hope that we can get views from other professionals. We will also collect the views of stakeholders. And then we will look at the various factors affecting the operating environments of markets, for example, the age of people, income of people shopping at the markets, their preferences, the transportation links of the markets, and so forth. So we hope that all these views from professional consultants and stakeholders can give us an idea on how to enhance the operating environment of public markets. We also set up an interdepartmental task force. As we said earlier, the task force will actually enhance collaborations between departments to, for example, assess views submitted by consultants and also to take forward the measures in the future. We will start our work soon, and we hope that in the second half of this year we can submit a report to the panel. Lastly, as requested by the panel, we would, together with some members, visit some markets. The visits are scheduled for April 30th and the end of May. Earlier, the Secretary and I has have been to some markets. We hope that we can get some latest ideas about the operating environments of markets. As for the rental adjustments, in January we submitted the item to this panel, on the rental issues of the markets. You all know that the rental fees back in 1998 actually was introduced So it has been extended and extended. By December 31st this year, the freeze would expire. So we will get the consultant to look at the entire situation, because last time we heard from members and some hawker representatives about the rents, and the government agreed that whatever adjustment we're going to make to the rents, we can't do it in a rush. We need to look at the affordability of the hawkers, store owners. So we will only introduce any changes in actually gradual manner. And you know that we will also make adjustment according to principle of not more than 5% of the market rate. We think that the upcoming adjustment should have minimal impact on future operations in the markets. And also, as requested by the panel, we would also look at how we can improve the entire environments of the markets. And later on, we will go to some markets together with panel members. Of course, we do hope that this panel can consider a rental adjustment mechanism for discussion, so that we can end the rental freeze as early as possible. If you agree, we hope that we can before the end of the electoral term submit a plan on it for discussion at the panel. As for air conditioning, last time we talked a lot about air conditioning fees. Last time when we were inspecting markets, we found that different hawkers or vendors in markets have different views on whether there's a need for air conditioning and what the fee level should be. So the views are quite divergent. Of course, we will arrange for air conditioning when necessary and try to work out a reasonable rate. But all these issues actually will have to wait till we have come up with the proposals, but we'll consult you on the proposals in the future again. Thank you. Members, the meeting is scheduled to end according to schedule and soon, but I will use my power to extend the meeting, to extend it to 7:45. If necessary, we will consult you on further extending the meeting. But let me remind you, our discussion today is really not on concrete details. In January, we decided on the schedule, but the Bureau said that they could not submit a report in April because they need to do more work. So I've asked to put this item on our agenda today, hoping to make sure that the report to be submitted to us in July will be a meaningful one. So I hope members the members who are going to speak today could concentrate on what you think need to be done and what need to be put into the July report. So Wong Ko-heng and Vice Chairman have raised their hands. Each one of you will have 3 minutes. 3 minutes. And also we have Tim Bak-san. Wong Ko-heng first. Chairman, paragraph 7 in the paper. I hope that the administration can, on the installation of air conditioning and air conditioning charges, actually submit a proposal for discussion on this together with the rental adjustment mechanism together. So not like what the Undersecretary said, that before the end of this term, that is by July, submit the rental adjustment mechanism proposal to us first. Let me tell the Undersecretary, I wouldn't accept what you suggested earlier. If you had listened to what we said before, as all the representatives and members have said, they would not agree with separating the two. You need to combine the two for discussion. In the markets, some have air conditioning, some don't. They're just like two different worlds. If the government can report on your plans for installing air conditioning in non-air conditioned markets, if you can also tell us at the same time your adjustment for rentals, and that would be fine for discussion. But if you only talk about rental adjustment and without any mention of air conditioning, I cannot accept that. I would strongly object that. And I'm very pleased that the Secretary and the Secretary are willing to visit markets together with us. I can see the the sincerity on the part of the Secretary and the Undersecretary. Because if you go to the public markets, especially when it's very hot outside and even at 40 temperatures, 40 degrees inside, then you have to be inside to know what it's like.
So you can't just say that you can't only say that the rentals have been frozen for many years, and so there must be rent increases. You have to take into account the actual problems. Yes, Undersecretary. Chairman, yes, we do understand Mr. Wong's concerns. In fact, I and the Secretary have visited many public markets. On the issue of air conditioning, we do agree that air conditioning is needed. Some traders or store operators have told us that air conditioning is needed. But then in some markets, those whose stores are near the entrance and those whose stores inside may have different views. And then on occasion, I remember one vegetable store operator telling us that he didn't want air conditioning because if there was air conditioning, his vegetables would die very soon, and so he would prefer fans. So you can see that, in fact, the problems in different public markets are different. Now, the rental freeze will expire at the end of the year. So we'll be looking at all these issues. Yes, Chairman. Now, the Undersecretary said that one vegetable store operator didn't want air conditioning. I believe he is the minority. In fact, I have been helping the store operators since 1991, and I've never heard store operators saying that they do not want air conditioning. Deputy Chairman, yes, that there might have been this vegetable store operator telling you that he didn't want air conditioning, but I want to say that in fact most of the store lessees want air conditioning, and some are of the view that concerning air conditioning in the public areas, lessees should not be asked to pay air conditioning charges. And then I want to know whether you have plans to draw up improvement proposals for the public markets. You're going to engage a consultant. So what sort of consultant will you be engaging, and which markets will you choose? Now, I'm worried that you may not be able to choose the right markets, and also you may choose markets which will help you convince us that a rental increase is necessary. Yes, thank you, Undersecretary. Yes, I thank Mr. Ho for his comments. Now, before I answer Mr. Ho's questions, I want to clarify that it is not that the government doesn't want to provide air conditioning at public markets. I was just trying to say that the market stall lessees do have different views concerning the provision of air conditioning in public markets. Then back to the consultancy study. I can give members some information and then Mr. Wong can supplement. Now we hope that through this exercise we can improve the operating environment of public markets, and we also want to improve the overall environment inside public markets. There are consultants who are not experts only in design, but have expertise in looking at the viability of public markets with supermarkets or other types of retail outlets nearby. Will the consultants be looking at the provision of air conditioning? Yes. But I want to say that the consultants will not just look at public works, air conditioning. Yes, perhaps the Deputy Secretary can supplement. Yes, Chairman. We have in mind consultants who are experienced in increasing the patronage of shopping malls and increasing customer satisfaction. So we will ask the consultant to give a very concrete and detailed proposals on individual markets, and we'll also ask the consultants to provide advice of a general nature. As members are aware, the FEHD manages over 70 public markets, and even if the consultants come up with recommendations, they can't be implemented at the same time at all markets. And we hope that consultants can tell us how we can better manage our markets. Mr. Michael Tian, you said you would be willing to assist, right? Chairman, I'm not a member of this panel, but I want to say something here, and I believe the Undersecretary knows what I want to say. Now, at the moment, 70% of our public markets are not air conditioned, and in June and July this year, I hope that I can visit those markets with you, Undersecretary. I want to take you to the Yonge Oak Market in Chun Wan, Yonge Oak Street Market. Let's talk to each and every store lessee. Let's ask them whether they want air conditioning. Your air condition or your charging policy is flawed on the first floor for a very popular pork store. The air conditioning charge is calculated on a per square foot basis, and then on the third floor there is a very unpopular store, and the same formula is applied in the calculation of air conditioning charges. And so when you calculate the air conditioning charges, you have to look at the size of the store as well as the rental per square foot. Now for the store lessees on the upper floors, they've told me that in fact a lot of people patronize stores on the first floor, and few people go to the third floor, and so those operating on the first floor should be paying more than those on the third floor. And then those operating on the first floor are complaining. They say they really want air conditioning, but those on the upper floors object to the idea. So it's really a lose-lose situation. If you can charge the operators on the lower floors more and lessees on the upper floors less, then everyone will be happy. So in June or July this year, I want to go to Yeung Oak Street Market in Chuen Wan together with the undersecretary. So talk to the lessees and they can tell you directly their concerns. Do you agree? Do you accept that invitation, undersecretary? Chairman, I understand that members are concerned about the issue of air conditioning. Yes, we understand that air conditioning is needed. We are not saying that we don't want to provide air conditioning. But I want to say that in the same market, different lessees may have different views concerning the issue of air conditioning. Now we only have 5 minutes left. Undersecretary Ms. Helena Wong wants to ask some questions, and I want to make some concluding remarks. Yes, Ms. Wong. Yes, Chairman, I am also of the view that the issue of air conditioning should be resolved as soon as possible. And concerning the consultancy study, I hope that the consultant will not just look at the operating environment in public markets. The consultant should also study demands in the market. At the moment, the FEHD manages 77 public markets. In Kowloon West, especially in Ka-lok, the residents are complaining that there are no markets. People have to carry their babies, walk all the way to Shamshui Po, and walk all the way back with a few bags of foodstuff. So I hope that the consultant will also look at the distribution of public markets. Are there districts with a huge demand but without public markets? And then find the markets which are find some markets among the 77 which are popular, and identify some which are unpopular, and then analyze the causes. And then you can bring all the findings and recommendations back to this panel. All right, I'll spend the remaining 3 minutes drawing some conclusions. Now, I think the officials now understand that members are eager to see a report with the right content, covering the right elements in July. So, Undersecretary, please talk to your colleagues after the meeting and tell us what the table of content of your report is going to be like. Now, as you've said, market rentals have been frozen for many years, since 1998, and we, of course, also hope to see the whole matter resolved before the end of the year. So that was why we set a timetable: January, April, July, and we really want to see something concrete in July. We want to see concrete progress. So, work out the table of content with your colleagues after the meeting. I and the deputy chairman will be willing to sit down and discuss with you the table of content of the upcoming report. And like Mr. Wong Kwok Heng, I think it's good that the secretary will be visiting markets with us on the 30th of April and also at the end of May. But I want to know what sort of information or data you will be gathering. And the sort of information and data you will be gathering will have a bearing on the conclusions of your report. And I don't think the rent adjustment mechanism can be studied or dealt with independently and in isolation. Now, in fact, members here all reject this idea. Under Secretary, time's up. We have to adjourn the meeting, and the Deputy Chairman can have a meeting with you after you've come up with a draft of the table of contents of your report. Yes, can I respond? Yes. Chairman, we are now planning to hire a consultant. Now, it takes time to find the right consultant, and the consultant will also need time to collect data and to collect the views of the stakeholders. And so the July report, I'm afraid, is going to be a preliminary report only. Now, of course, we can sit down with the chairman and the deputy chairman on the table of content for the report. But I want to say that the report in July can only be an interim report. So are you going to freeze the rentals for another year, Under Secretary?
Because if your report is not going to tell us the actual progress, then you can be sure that by December 31st, the rental freeze will have to continue. Because you want the hawkers, to look at your report and look at the provisions on the rental contracts. Policy-wise, are you prepared to see the rental freeze continued? I think we'll note to your point. We will take into consideration your point and the time factor. As you can see, now we're going to the markets and we're looking for consultants. We do hope that the entire exercise this time will be done well. I think by July, it's not that we're trying to delay anything, but you just want to come up with a good report. So that, for public markets, whether for operations or the environment, there can be improvements. Okay, Under Secretary, I think through our secretariat and your admin staff will set a time. I believe I and the Vice Chairman would like to, of course, if Secretary Ko will be there, it will be best, but I'd like to have a meeting with you and the Permanent Secretary. First, to listen carefully, to know what direction you're heading into. On the 30th, we'll go to the first market. And I hope that by April 30th, if you have time, even a short meeting half an hour is fine. I can go to your office or you come over here is fine. So let's fix a meeting. Okay? And can you ask the Secretary, and we'll liaise through the Secretariat. And lastly, a report. Mr. Tian, a quick point. Is the government going to consider in the coming months that it will commission the consultants to study a study on non-air-conditioned markets? And if air conditioning is installed, how much you will have to charge them? And would you consider my proposal of charging on the basis of the number of people going there? Would 80% of the store operators there consider having air conditioning there? Would you consider conducting such an exercise so that I'll be convinced that, as you said, some people don't want air conditioning? Would you consider my proposal? Of course, I'm sure the Undersecretary will say that she will consider your idea. But if you say that after the government has installed air conditioning, and can shoulder part of the cost, then if the government is willing to shoulder part of the cost, then I think most would welcome air conditioning. Well, on April 30th, our first inspection, 9 members from this panel have registered. On May 28th, 8 members of this panel have registered to go. So I think we would not open the inspection tools to other members because there'll be too many people in the markets otherwise. Any view, Vice Chairman? I think if there are too many people going, then it will make the market even more crowded. And indeed, we've got so many members here, and I think our members are actually represent different parties anyway. Okay, right. So that's it.